Today is Monday, September 11th, 2017. We are in Bellingham, Massachusetts. This tape is part of the Bellingham-Mendon Veterans Oral History Project. My name is Marjorie Turner Hollman. Our cameraman is Jeff Paul of ABMI Cable 8 TV. We're privileged to have with us today John Bell of Hopedale, Massachusetts. Welcome, John. Could you tell us your whole name?
My name is John Lawrence Bell. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts. And when I went into the service, I was living in Roxbury at the time.
All right, and your hometown is, you live in Hopedale now?
Hopedale, I live in Hopedale now.
And could you tell us your connection with Bellingham, with the men's group?
Yeah, I met Paul when we were both in the YMCA, and we got to be good friends. And then I met him on the memorial, Veterans Memorial, one of the benches out there where I would walk and take an exercise. Mm-hmm. And he told me about the men's group. So sounds like a good idea.
Wonderful. And it meets weekly at the Bellingham Senior Center.
Yeah.
A lot of veterans in your group.
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
There are. And do you have any family members who served in the military, John?
I had an uncle, World War II, and a brother during the Korean conflict. He was in the Navy.
Okay. All right.
That was it.
And are you married now with children?
This is my second wife. My first wife passed away back in 1974. Then I got married again in 1979, and she had already had 2 boys. And now between us, we got 7 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren.
Wonderful. And could you tell us what you were doing before you went into the service?
I wasn't doing much. I was in high school, but
All right.
at about 5 months into the Korean War, I thought about going into the military. So I really was just a student in high school.
And why did you join the Army?
Well, I always thought I wanted to see the world. And being 17 at the time, I had to get my mother's permission to join. And she signed me up. And she said I should go into the Navy because you get 3 square meals a day in a cot. And my sister said, John, she said, they probably won't take you in the Navy because you had tuberculosis. You might not be able to pass the test. So I thought, well, Army's pretty good. So that's when I went down to in Boston to take my physical. And when I finished my physical, I asked the guy, I said, did I pass? He said, flying colors.
All
and
right.
Within the week, I was in Fort Evans.
My goodness, this was 1951.
January of 1951.
And could you tell us how old you were then?
17.
You were 17 years old.
Yeah.
All right. And tell us about boot camp, where it was, and some of your memories of boot camp.
Yeah, that's a good question because I was up at Fort Evans. It was pretty cold, and we didn't know where we were going. There was a bunch of us regular Army and draftees all together in that time. So they finally said, well, you guys are going to Camp Polk, Louisiana. And I said, oh, it'll be nice and warm. So they just took us by train and took us till we get down there. It was warm. And the only thing we could see was armadillos. Never seen one before.
Armadillos?
Yeah.
Oh.
Never seen one before. It scared me because they had these hard shells. So anyway, we got to the division, which was the 45th Infantry Division. They were a National Guard outfit from Oklahoma. So they got us all squared away and put us in different units of the National Guard. Now, once we got the unit, we started meeting the guys that was going to train us. Mm-hmm. come to find out, most of these guys were in World War II, and they joined the National Guard to make a little extra money.
So they were World War II veterans?
They were World War II veterans, and they trained us. And while they was training us, we got to talk with them and everything, and kind of blew my mind at times because they was telling us war stories, and it wasn't just about the European campaign. It was about the Far East, Japan, and they told us some kind of tough war stories. And they said, and we're going to train you guys to be as tough as we were when we got out of basic training. And they did.
So they were preparing you for the worst.
Yeah.
For
So
your own benefit.
We went through everything that they went through before World War II. And in fact, we had the same weapons that they used during the Second World War, because they haven't upgraded the military weapons yet.
Okay.
So we used the M1s, the machine guns, the 3.5 bazookas. We did everything that we even trained on mortars. But when we come out, we were well trained. And then what happened was the actual National Guard, the guys were sent to Hokkaido, Japan, and we stayed behind for a little more advanced infantry training. And then we went up, got on a ship, and we went to Hokkaido, Japan, and got back in the same units we were in while we was in the States. And we did some tough training, let me tell you, in Hokkaido. And these guys, they weren't mean to us or anything, but they were hard, because our lives counted, and their lives counted on that we learned and do the training that they had done. And then they even mimicked combat itself.
Really?
Yeah. That this is what you're going to experience. And we did.
Wow.
And then the whole division, which was unusual, the whole division went to Korea during the Korean War, and it was still going on pretty high.
Well, that was my next question. Was we've got a picture of you in the snow in the trenches.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could tell us some about whether it was the weather that you experienced, whether it was the conditions. Tell us some about being in Korea, and then I'll have some other questions about Korea, but some of that, I'm not asking combat stories, but whatever you want to tell us.
Well, when we got situated off the ships, they put us on the train, and it took us a day and a half to get up to the front lines. We got to the front lines, and they showed us where we was going to be platoon sergeants and lieutenants and everything. In fact, we had a lieutenant shoot himself in the head while he was on the ship because he was scared he wasn't going to make it.
Oh, dear.
And he didn't know if he could train lead men there. That's what they told me.
Oh, dear.
So anyway, we got up to it, and they told us, okay, there's your position, go up there. So I got up there and tapped the guy in the head. I said, yeah, you're going to Hokkaido. They knew they were going to go, but what got me was that there was bodies all around where the trenches were and everything. And somebody said they did that to shock us, because that's what we're going to be seeing a lot, dead bodies.
These were American soldiers that?
No, they were dead Koreans.
Okay.
No, there was no American soldiers.
Okay.
So anyway, they didn't bury him or nothing. It was very cold, and you couldn't just use an American shovel. So we had to gather them all up. There was big holes there from bomb and artillery, So we had to put them in these holes, clear them all up. We got them in there, and then that was a tough job, just picking up dead bodies.
That's a pretty tough introduction to Korea, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was our introduction.
Wow.
So then we had to pour gasoline and diesel on them and burn them. And we had to get what dirt there was outside the foxholes and stuff and bury them.
Now, you said something about it being trench warfare, a lot like World War One.
It was. We were here, they were there on another hill, and each side had their own trenches and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you manned your trenches because during the Korean War, they was trying to get a truce going. It took about a year before they finally signed a peace treaty. That's not a peace treaty, it was a truce. But during that time, within that year, there was still a lot of fighting going on because they wanted to gain as much territory. But when they did stop,
Right.
eventually stop, but they didn't stop the war. So anyway, they wanted to get as much territory as they could before it was a boundary, a permanent boundary where they were going to be and where we were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to dig these trenches because they were still fighting us, and if we didn't have stuff to defend ourselves, and we also had to take some hills and get into a certain territories, and that's why they had trenches, even when they had the truce.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put in a demilitarized zone where nobody could enter that because it didn't belong to either one. But that was just to keep us separated. This is after
You
the
had some
truce.
stories that you were telling me before about being in the demilitarized zone and what that experience was like. Could you tell us a little bit about what
Yeah,
it was like?
I can tell you that, but I didn't get up to the DMZ until my third tour of duty, which
You saw
was
a
in
lot of Korea.
which was in 1970.
Oh gosh.
Now this is back in 1951,
Right.
so I'd have to get ahead of my story about the DMZ, but I experienced that too. Do you want to hear about that part?
You can tell us however you want. Do you want to what else would you like to tell us about being in Korea?
Well, I can tell you about the DMZ, that story.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And that was about 3 months worth of stories. So I don't know if you want me to go into that
Just
now.
tell us. You said something about the mortars getting fired, even though it was in the demilitarized zone. There were that it still felt
Yeah,
like
okay,
you were
well,
pretty much.
I'll go into that, the one that was 7 years later, 1951 to 1970. That's almost 20 years.
So 20 years later.
20 years later. But to get to that part, I have to talk about Vietnam.
Then why don't we talk about you being in the military police when you were in Korea?
Okay. But, okay, so after my Korean tour of duty the first time, about the war and all that stuff, and the reason I'll get back to you on the weather, it was very, very cold,
Mm-hmm.
you know. It would snow, it's hard walking. So, and I'm talking about we didn't have what they had, the clothes we had, clothes itself weren't bad, but the boots, what they call Mickey Mouse boots, and you got, they were all rubber, and you were given a couple of pairs of socks and inner soles to keep your feet from freezing and getting wet. So anyway, once you stop, we went out on a patrol once, and once you stop, the sweat from your socks
Mm-hmm.
would start to freeze, and you could feel it get cold, and you were going to set up that ambush all night long. And when you started feeling that, you took your pair of socks that you had inside here to keep warm and dry. You changed your socks, changed your inner sole, and it felt a little better, a lot better, till it got cold again, which was all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we did that, and then after we came off patrol, we got word to check this one bunker. check this one bunker out that they haven't heard from because nobody answered their phone. They had a phone wire down there. They had one of those phones that you click. Anyway, nobody was answering, so they told us to stop by this certain outpost. They call it an outpost. So we get to the outpost, and we're calling up there because we were letting them know who we were, so they wanted to be shooting at us.
Right.
So one of the guys went up there and looked inside the bunker. They had a little bunker there, and there was two guys in there in the sleeping bags, both of them dead. What happened was maybe one of them was supposed to stay up, and maybe the other one was supposed to stay up. Who knows? But they were both dead. They both were sleeping in the sleeping bags. So the company policy after that was you take one sleeping bag, not two.
Are you saying that they froze from falling asleep?
No, they got shot.
Oh, okay.
They snuck up on them.
Oh, dear. All right, so nobody was alert.
Nobody was alert.
Okay.
At least one of them should have been, but
Sure.
they both decided to get the sleeping bag. Maybe
Right.
one couldn't wake the other one up. Who
Okay.
knows?
Right.
But anyway, policy was only one sleeping bag between two.
Yep.
You know, if you can. So this happened to me, and I was anyway, BAR, Browning Automatic Rifle assistant. So they sent us down. They said, I told you about the ridges were straight across, but you had what you call fingers that came down, and then between the fingers
This
was
is in
open.
the mountains you're talking about?
Yeah, this is where our trenches were up here.
Okay.
But you had these fingers going down, and you had open spaces beside it. So we always had to have an outpost down by the fingers. So this one night, they sent me and this guy down, and they said, "Oh, you're only going to be down there an hour or two. You know, we'll let you know." We had the wire with us, comma wire with a phone, and all of a sudden, down below, an explosion hit, and we heard this yelling, screaming, and all that stuff. And decided to call down. They said, "What's going on down there?" I said, "I think somebody hit a booby trap around mine." And we heard, they said, "Well, we can't send anybody down until we find out what's going on." So we just stayed there and waited and waited and waited. And it was getting cold. So I said to the guy, I said, "You know, the only way we're going to stay warm is cut up some of these sandbags." So we took bayonets out, started cutting the sandbags open and shaking them out, put the sandbags inside of coats and stuff. And it helped a little, but didn't help your feet.
It was a cold night.
Cold night.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was one way to stay warm. You did.
I guess you did what you had to.
What they call that, and anybody that's been in the military knows these words: field expediency.
Field expediency?
Field expediency. Once you're in the field or in combat, and you're going to be there for a while, you use anything that you can get a hold of,
Right.
and you can use it somehow, some way. So that's what's called. You had to use your mind
That's right.
to survive.
You mentioned about being on the Vice Squad, one of your tours of duty in
Well,
Korea.
this-
Could you
this-
tell us about a little bit about that?
Yeah. This is my second tour of duty in Korea. Well, the tour of duty was, when I was there, was, I forgot. When I left Korea the first time, I was stationed in Germany for a year. Not much to tell you there, except for we was always on alert there because of the Cold War. There was always something going on. So when they gave the alarm, you went to your alert area and set up all your weapons and stuff, just in case. they did that on their own because, they wanted to see how alert you are, how fast you get to your alert area, because you don't know if it was true or not that the Russians were coming. So anyway, we did that in Germany. I was there for a year. Then I got out of the service, and I went back, got out for 2 years, and re-enlisted after 2 years, but this time I didn't re-enlist in the infantry. I went to in Georgia, I forget the name of this, for military police training, and I got through with that. Then here again, Korea bound. So I was in Korea, and I was assigned at first to the 8th Army Stockade, guard prisoners. And there's a lot of prisoners there too, murdered officers before they get sent back to Leavenworth. So one day, this guy says to me, "Hey, Bill," he says, "they want you down at down the headquarters there." I said, "Okay." So I went over and I talked to a captain. He said to me, he says, "We're going to start a vice squad, and we want to interview people that want to be in it." I said, "Yeah, I'd like to be in it. I want to get away from prisoners, being in towers where it's cold and everything." So he says, "Well, we get black market, vice, prostitution, and different other things." So I said, "Yeah." I said, "Which one do you want me in?" He says, "Well, you got to go to vice." I said, "What's that entail?" He says, "Well, we just thought of an idea, try to get rid of some of these prostitutes that are giving guys with venereal disease." He said, "Your job, if you tend to take it like Mission Impossible, if your job, you're going to go to the dispensary every morning, and they're going to send you these guys that just been exposed to venereal disease, and they have it mostly the clap and gonorrhea and some of this other stuff." So they gave me a little space there where they had a closet keeping the files, and they had this bench outside. So they told us, said, "Well, you're going to meet a military policeman, and he's going to try and find out where this person lived, this girl lived that gave you VD." And I said, "Oh, okay, I can do that." He says, "Oh, yeah, we're going to assign you a Vietnamese policewoman. She'll go along with you as your interpreter and to calm the girls down once they get in the Jeep." And I said, "Well, what am I going to do then?" He said, "You're going to take them to the women's police station and turn them over to the women's police." And I said, "Okay." So what I did was talk to the guys if they know where the girl lived. It was in the afternoon. I'd sign them a time to come back to the dispensary, and I'd pick them up with the policewoman, and we'd take them to the woman's police station. There was always arguments. I don't see that GI only. So the way they talk. So I get down to the women's police station and let her do the talking. And they said, "Well, we're going to keep her here overnight, check her out." I said, "Okay." So I'd like to go to the club that night, have a few. So after I turned this girl in and we had to go pick up some more. I was up at the club that night. Who did I see? The one I just turned into the woman's police.
She'd gotten released.
They let her loose, graft.
Ah.
Graft.
Okay.
That was the big thing in Korea at that time. Graft and black market. So anyway, I told my captain, I said, "Hey, they're letting these girls go. Once I leave, they're gone. They paid the policewoman off, and that's it for them. Then they're up at the club trying to get another date.
Oh,
Hey,
dear.
yeah, you want a date? So anyway, they told me I'm to call up the woman, the police chief, see what's going on. Said, I want you to go back and talk to her. So I went back. And what's your name? She said, Johnny. I said, John. Oh, John's son, Johnny's son. Yeah, that's me. They said, Johnny's son, you can get me ice cream? Yeah, I said, yeah, I'll get you some ice cream. PX commissary. Oh, thank you. So I got on their good side, but it didn't stop.
I see. You have some pamphlets. I'm gonna have you show those to us later, but excuse me. You were deployed to Vietnam, and I know that you said something about you had got some training in Vietnamese before they sent you to Vietnam. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
What did I get?
You said you got a diploma for Vietnamese studies. 12 weeks of it.
Yeah. I was in Germany at the time when I got orders to go to Vietnam. So but then they changed my order. They said, you're going to Monterey, California for Vietnamese language training. I said, okay. So I got to the language training school, didn't learn a damn thing. I had a ball in those 8 weeks. We had no extra duty. We'd come and go when we wanted to. But that was a waste of time. But I asked the guy, I said there was one guy, he had tuberculosis, it looked like he never stopped coughing, and he was in the bunk just on the other side of me, coughing all night long. He says, you know, I can't stand this place. I says, I just soon go to Vietnam now, because he had to do the same 12 weeks. So he asked the guy, the commander there, and he says, can I go to Vietnam now? I'm not learning nothing here. And the commander says, no, we have a contract. You have a contract that we signed for you to be here for 12 weeks, and you're going to stay here for 12 weeks.
Oh, oh boy.
And we both did. I didn't want to stay there either, because I wasn't learning nothing.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So
Now,
that was a waste. They had to pay for these Vietnamese. They were actual Vietnamese women that were teaching us, you know.
Yeah. We also have a picture of some blindfolded prisoners of war that you saw when you were in Vietnam. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences encountering Vietnamese and some of your experiences? Tell us how you got that picture of the
See, now,
prisoners of war.
the way I was going to talk about things like that, as each tour of duty I went to, I would talk about that tour of duty.
Okay.
Now, Vietnam, when I did get over there, that was right after Germany and before my second tour of duty in Korea. So I was just saving that as I went along.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've gotten it a little mixed up, but
Yeah,
Okay,
no, because I'll get everything mixed up if I
all
don't.
right. Tell us what you want to.
Okay, so anyway, I finished school with a diploma. Even I didn't know that. And that's when I got my orders. We flew to Vietnam, and we get assigned to our companies. And you could hear the B-52s off in the distance. I thought it was lightning and thunder. It was the B-52s
Really?
driving that low, because you would see the flash up in the sky. And then you would see you would hear the explosion. And that went on all night too. But you weren't as close as when you actually got into combat. You was in a replacement center to go to your new unit. Well, I gotta tell you one thing about the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in Korea, I was only like 18 years old. I was on the front line. And they would have these searchlights behind us. And they would hit the clouds above you, outside almost to where they were. And the lights would bounce back into the valley below. So that helped you see that if there was anything out there.
Mm-hmm.
We had binoculars and all that stuff. And they had outposts that could see better with the floodlights coming down. So this one night, we got a call. It was a loudspeaker. It was right up on the front. And they says, this is going to be in English till this Korean guy comes along. And he says, we just captured, no, we didn't capture him. He gave himself up. He crawled up, and how he got through. But he said that the prison said that there was another guy out there that wanted to surrender too. But he was too scared to come up. But we know where he is, and he pointed out they told us.
So these are North Korean broadcasts to you.
No.
To you.
The first part was the Americans.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The Americans got on the loudspeaker,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, we just got a prisoner that wants to surrender.
Okay.
A North Korean prisoner that wants
okay.
to surrender.
Sorry. Yep.
But he has a friend, a buddy, that wants to surrender too. But he was so scared, he didn't want to come up. He thought he'd get killed, shot at.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're going to try and get him up here. And we want everybody to know what section he's in and whereabouts he's at. So when he does come up, we don't want nobody shooting. So then they said, we'll put this Korean interpreter on. So South Korean, it could have been North Korea, South Korea, interpreter, it didn't make no difference. So he is on the loudspeaker speaking Korean to the guy that wants to surrender, but too scared to come up.
Mm-hmm.
And that went on for about half hour or so. Finally, he yells up, I'm ready to come up. So he did, he came up, and he surrendered. And it had nothing to do with the safe conduct passes. But this is a safe conduct pass. And you can see the propaganda all through here.
Now, who created those? Were those North Korean or were those?
No, these are Americans.
Those are American.
Talking to the
Oh, okay.
North Korean.
Yeah.
And down here you had how to say I surrender. It's a phonetic type of speech.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, I'll tell you how to say surrender. This here I got back in 1951. I don't know why I kept it so long. Safety and good treatment for bearer are guaranteed. So in other words, they get one of these, they can walk right up to you and say, I surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the same thing, more propaganda on this side. It's all in Korean, showing guys being treated in the hospital and stuff like that. And then they had one for the Americans too, but I never did get one of them. I got a couple from in Vietnam that tells you how to surrender in Vietnamese. So that's why I had to backtrack on that one,
Mm-hmm.
because that's
Sure.
the story I had to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the guy was treated good, and sent on his way to prisoner war camp,
This is the
done pretty
Korean
good.
War. Okay.
During the Korean War, they had an incident down an island where they kept the North Korean prisoners. They rioted against the Americans, and that was put down. But these guys never had it so good. They were getting 3 squares a day and just laying around.
Mm-hmm.
But they rioted anyway. The communist infiltration got them to riot.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my last part of the first Korean duty.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, oh yeah, I went to Germany after that. And then we're getting back to the language school.
Mm-hmm.
And then the vice squad.
Right. Right.
Now, when I got over there, I got on the vice squad. We, when I wasn't rounding up prostitutes,
Mm-hmm.
best job in the world. I knew every hooker in Korea.
Oh dear.
And we used to make raids on the hooker houses.
Oh.
In fact, they had this one place called the Kookadoo Hotel. It was right across the railroad station. And we knew that they were having prostitutes in there because every time we raided it, nobody was in there. All the girls were gone, the guys were gone, everybody. So what we did, we took the company clerk, the typist, we gave him some money, and he wasn't wearing anything that looked like MP. Told him to go down to Kookadoo Hotel and have yourself a ball. So he was in there. So then we raided the place because we knew he was in there. We wanted to find out where the girls, the guys were going. So that night, he left the place and came back and he told us what they were doing. Well, they had 2 houses together. The Kookadoo Hotel was here. The house was here, not too far away. They dug a tunnel from the Kookadoo place to the house next door.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they had not spies, but people looking out for the EMPs were going to raid the place.
Right. Lookouts. Yeah.
So they seen us coming this one night when we were going to raid the place. And they scurried like rats in the tunnel over to the other house. And we met the company clerk. He came out when they started running.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and we asked him, well, where'd they go? He said, come on, I'll show you. So we back into the Kookadoo Hotel. Nobody was there. He said, follow me. And then they were next door. They were still partying in next door because they used that in case they had to go over there.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
So we arrested them off. It was an off-limits place, so we arrested them all.
Mm-hmm. Now,
So,
you
but then again, we raided the place again,
Oh.
and they were up. The guys were all in their rooms. They didn't hear the alarm and stuff. They didn't get down and go in the tunnel. So we found out that they were all field officers, majors and above. And one of the guy that was in charge of the MPs went up and said, what are you guys doing here? He said, well, we're down on religious retreat.
Oh dear.
They were supposed to go to church, talk to the chaplain and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it must have been about 25 of them.
Oh dear.
So the head of the MPs called the captain, the head of the MP vice squad.
Mm-hmm.
What should we do? Forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
Come on back.
Oh golly.
Yeah.
Now,
So we let them go.
from some rather humorous stories,
Yeah.
I noticed that you have a whole bunch of medals over on this frame
Yeah.
there, including a Purple Heart.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't ever get to tell us about their Purple Heart.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened that you were awarded a Purple Heart?
Yeah. In 1969, when I was still there before I found this stuff, we get attacked. Hill got attacked. What they call LC, which is a landing craft area.
Mm-hmm.
They used to take a whole company and surround the hill because there was artillery up there. They were the ones that was giving us support. We weren't always in the jungle. They would rotate us to these different.
And this was in Vietnam.
Yeah, that's to different areas, and then we would go out to the field, stay in the jungle. But every once in a while, we get on an LZ, a Z landing zone, and we would guard the artillery. But every once in a while, we get attacked ourselves. And this one time, I remember me in the, like yesterday, it was, we had this bunker right next practically to the artillery. And the Vietnamese, it was North Vietnamese by this time, the Viet Cong were all wiped out, they were gone. And they attacked us, they got up around our back, and they threw a dynamite satchel in the back of our bunker. And luckily it landed underneath the roof, which the roof wasn't that big. It had that much open space there, and they got stuck in there. It's like being in, when Hitler got wounded in that time when they tried to kill him, you know. But anyway, it took a lot of the explosion out, diverted it. And when it did that, it threw me up in the air, and I came down like that on my back. And my back really started hurting. So we all got out alive except this one guy. But everybody got wounded. So they sent me out to the dispensary, which they had a medic there, a doctor. He says, you got a pinched nerve. We got to evacuate you. He said, you can't walk. You're gonna need some rest. So they sent me to Cameron Bay. Well, I got to tell you a little story before that. Before they evacuated me from Chulai, that was one of our main hospitals. Well, like a dispensary almost. They took X-rays, and they said, "Yeah, you can't stay here for a while. We're gonna send you Cameron Bay, and then send you to Japan. I forget the name now. The hospital in Japan." I said, "Okay." He said, "We're gonna either operate or see what we can do." So anyway, before they could evacuate me, they got me on this helicopter. It was like, no, not a helicopter. It's like an ambulance, a small ambulance aircraft. And I got to tell you this story. I got to stop on that story and tell you what happened before that. Yeah, this is all.
It's okay.
This is why I want to stay within, so I don't get confused to the stories I want to tell you. So when I got evacuated, my platoon was out there somewhere. I don't know where, but I found out later. I was laying in bed up in Cameron Bay, and they brought this guy in on a stretcher. I looked over at him and I said, "Hey, Johnson, is that you?" He said, "Yeah." And he was all molded and stuff there. Shrapnel had got to him. And he was all cut up and everything. And he says, "Sergeant Bell," he says, "you didn't hear what happened?" I said, "No." he says, well, we was moving up to this hill, a hill we had been on before, he says. And I knew the hill he was talking about. So what happened was one of the guys jumped in a foxhole, and there was a mine inside the foxhole, and blew him up. I mean, he killed him.
Mm-hmm.
So they brought in a helicopter to dust him off. To dust off, you know what the word dust off means, don't you?
I don't know.
It's a medical term for when a helicopter comes in and picks up the wounded and the dead.
Okay.
So they dusted them off. But it was no use, he was dead. So anyway, when the helicopter came down, it hit another mine.
Oh no.
Blew the helicopter up.
Oh dear.
And anybody that was around it were killed.
Mm-hmm.
That was half of my platoon was there. I would have been with them.
Mm-hmm.
But-
If you hadn't been injured and
Yeah.
evacuated.
But then I found out that what I always did, and I told the guys to do it too. I don't know if this would have worked. But when we got up to a place that, even if we'd been there before, because they knew we were there before, they probably mined all the
The foxholes.
foxholes.
Mm-hmm.
And what I used to do, and I tell the other guys to do it too, take off your steel helmet, throw it in the middle of the foxhole. It might not go off, the mine might not go off because mine's kind of different. You might need an actual tank to run over the mine to blow it up. Or you could go like individual mines, what they call bouncing betties. They come up so high and explode right around where your privates are. And then, like say, it might not have done it because it takes a lot more pressure to blow up a tank than it does for an individual soldier to blow himself up. And that's happened too.
Mm.
So you could be sitting on a mine and it wouldn't blow up. But you take a tank, it's got enough weight to blow it up.
Mm-hmm.
So that was why I interrupted you on the.
No, that's fine.
What was that?
Well, we got a picture
Oh.
of you in the hospital, so we want to make sure that
Yeah,
you.
that's the one that. Well, that I was then getting ready to go back into action. What
Yeah.
they call it.
All right.
Do you want to talk about that, or what else
Well,
did it?
sure.
Or do you want to talk about the prisoners?
Well, we've got pictures of both. We've got
Yeah.
the picture of the blindfolded prisoner of war.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go to that because this is before I got to the hospital.
Okay.
We one time our two platoons got together and we're gonna what they call a pinch. They were gonna be, let's say for talk, we were gonna be in the north and this other platoon was gonna be in the south.
Mm-hmm.
And we was gonna run a patrol between us and see what we could get, you know. So we had come across an area where we captured one of the guys, you know, and one of the soldiers saw where he came out. It was right by the South China Sea, and we come to find out that the North Vietnamese used to use the beaches to build big bunkers, and they would send some of the guys for R&R. You know what R&R is?
Sure.
They built these big bunkers, and they'd let the guys go. They'd put them in these bunkers. At night they'd go out swimming and taking it easy and relaxing before they had to go back to their units. So we found all those guys. Well, there's 3 or 4 of them. There was 3 or 4 in the picture.
I think so.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we captured them.
Oh, okay.
And before that, see, I can go back to that because
I
if
know.
I got ahead of myself, I wouldn't remember this part. We had a patrol going out. This is kind of sad. We had a patrol going out, and what they had is, what time's it getting to be?
We have about 10 more minutes that we can
Oh.
do, but you're doing fine.
Because we had a patrol going out, and this one guy, he had just come out of NCO school, and they call him shake and bake. If you pass the NCO school, they make you an automatic sergeant.
Yeah.
So this guy, when they told him he's going on patrol, it's where to go, you don't go there. You do something else. Usually what you do is you go over the hill like you're going on patrol. You get as close to the hill that you just got off and stay there till daytime. You're not going, these guys had to go close to a mile. You don't even want to go 10 feet once you get off that hill. So on the way up, they had to go through a village. So on their way through the village, they got ambushed.
Oh dear. Yeah.
They lost 4 guys killed. We had to pick up
Yeah.
the rest of them. One guy, his name was Smythe. No, Burns. I'm thinking about the Irish guys.
Mm-hmm.
He had just got to Vietnam, and he was from Ireland, and he got drafted. He was one of the guys that got killed. The squad leader got killed, and 3 of the other guys got killed before we could get to him.
Mm-hmm.
And when we caught those prisoners, well, no, I'll go back a minute. The guys wanted to kill the company commander for making them go that far out.
Mm-hmm.
But they told him, no, don't go. But he went anyway because he thought he was doing his job.
Mm-hmm.
Field expediency.
Mm-hmm.
Field,
Mm-hmm. You have a list. I don't know if you want to talk about it. I want to make sure you get a chance to mention it. You have a list that you put
yeah.
together many years later, but when you were thinking of all the people that you
Yeah.
served with. And did you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, when I was in the hospital, I was thinking about the guys that were still there. And I would thinking of the names. And I said, I better write these names down. I'll never see them again. So I don't know how many, must be about 18 there, 14. These are the ones that all died in my company.
Yeah,
You can see it's a pretty long list.
it's a long list.
And this one over on this side, are all the guys that got wounded.
Mm-hmm. It's a
Look
whole
at that,
sheet of names.
a lot of names
Yeah.
there.
Boy.
I want to get back to one thing before
Yes,
I
yes.
have to stop. And that's in during the Korean. The second time, or the third time. Third time in Korea. That's when they had the rioting. It was up in the DMZ, and finally they sent me back because I was getting to be like a basket case. With all the still going on. They were firing green traces over our heads. They had this music going all night long. They had this phony village that they lit up. I thought I was going cuckoo. I said, what a place. So anyway, I was talking with a sergeant. He said, Bill, you're not doing too good. To send you down to a psychiatrist. So I got finished with him, and he recommended I get out of the DMZ before I killed myself. So anyway, I did that with them. So this is where the writing, when I'm down there, the second Korean tour, that we got a call in the NCO non-commissioned that there was a riot out of the compound, and there was a bunch of blacks going around there, breaking into huts, stealing money, beating up the whites. Stealing money and beating up the whites. So I got over to my platoon, and I told them, I said, blacks are riding out there. They want to do a job on the whites. And I had some black guys in my platoon. So I told them, I said, you guys can go on no hard feelings, but if you stay here, you're going to have to help us. So I told them all to get their church tool out. We didn't have our bayonets or weapons with us. I said, if any of them start coming in, use them. Use them, don't let them get you guys. So
These were American soldiers who were rioting?
Black American soldiers.
And this was in Korea?
This is Korea. I
During
had told
the Korean
you.
War?
Well, let me.
Okay.
No, the war was truce at the time, but
Okay.
I had told you about McNamara's 100,000.
All of the people who were drafted.
No, all the people either go to the military or go to prison.
Oh, yes.
These were them.
Okay.
So anyway, one of the black guys went out and told them about, don't go in the Sergeant Bell's platoon. They're ready for you. So they just went by.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to tell you another thing, and this is in Germany. This is almost like the same thing that would happen in Korea, only happened on payday. Guys that get their money, they either go to the platoon or go to EM club or just go out partying. And the riot started. Black guys were robbing any white guy on the street or coming out of the club and taking their money. There was a few white guys in there too.
And these were American soldiers?
These are American, just like it was in Korea. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that was heartbroken because I thought that was the end of the military. The way it was. They said, here I got guys robbing their own buddies here.
So American
and then
soldiers.
sleeping next to them at night in the barracks. So we had to call out the guard and the MPs to come over to help us. So we finally got all that quieted down, and I had to account for all my soldiers. I couldn't find one. One of them, I couldn't find them. Nobody else seen them. So I stayed there till dawn and went back to duty. Then one of the guys heard a knocking on a dumpster. There was a guy. He was kind of not a big guy, but he didn't know what he was doing. He was a little metal up here. He was hiding in the dumpster to keep away from the guys that were beating guys up and robbing them. Now that, to me, that was the end of the military, the way it was going. So we had to get rid of the guys fast. So we did. They came up with a honorable discharge. A discharge under just good of the service.
A dishonorable discharge?
No, they didn't give him dishonor.
No?
They just good of the service. Because the other way you'd have to court martial, you'd have them there, and this and that. They'd have judges, and so they just came up with this. I don't know if it was still in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, but that's how they got rid of it.
Okay.
And then right after that, this was in 1972, I went to Fort Lewis, Washington, and this started the all-volunteer Army, no draft.
Yes.
The draft stopped right there.
Yep.
In 1973. And they were giving out bonuses, $5,000 if you went into the infantry and passed the infantry basic training. So that's, guys would get their bonuses, and you never seen some of them again. They never came back.
Oh, dear.
They were out there buying cars and stereos, or just having it. I only saw one guy come back, and that was because the police had him. He had gone into the bus station in the toilet, and this one guy was not a GI, but the one guy was taking a dump in there.
Oh, dear.
And the soldiers that I didn't see for a long time kicked open the door with a .45 give me your wallet.
Oh, dear.
You can have anything you want. So they arrested him. That's how I got to see it. Is this one of your soldiers? I said, yep. Well, he's not a soldier anymore. He's going to jail.
Oh, dear. I don't think we got a chance to have you tell us about the propaganda pamphlets that you found on while you were on the trail in Vietnam.
Oh, this one here, I got a bunch of them here.
I know you do.
And I found this while I was on patrol. It was just a bunch of papers scattered around this tree. And it was a lot, because it take you a while to read all this stuff there, but it was very unusual that they had the guys that were prisoners of war, their names and units were still on there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty good propaganda the way they wrote it. You know, it's almost like an American wrote it. So anyway, I was curious. I wonder if these guys are still alive. So I went down to Milford, the Metro West paper.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I wonder if you guys could help me. I said, I got these pamphlets in Vietnam in 1969. And they got the names and unit of all these guys that are on this pamphlet. There's probably 1,000 more somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him if he could help me find out. He says, yeah,